Do you think love is enough to just sustain a relationship?
You need to take your partner on a date night, your married partner. They feel really uncomfortable. And I asked this question, when was the last time you said, I love you? And they blushed, they said, no, I can't remember for the last 5 years that's been exchanged. I feel shy to even say that.
A lot of men are actually chasing their mother's love through women these days.
You are getting into a relationship with another girl. She's also, let's say, 19 or 20. Now, she's still very, very young. She's not mature enough to understand your complex requirements or desires. So she might not give it. She's not your mom, right? That's where something that the South Asia couples need to work on.
Alright guys, so today we are doing something very different and I thought I'll probably invite a guest on our channel today. So today we have Ramindu Randeni. He is a leadership coach and he's also a business coach, and I wanted to actually bring in a male example into the channel so that we can interact and you guys can also learn more from someone who's also an example in the industry too. So welcome Ramindu to the show.
Great. Thanks. Great to be there.
Alright, so today we are going to talk about, relationships in general and how it actually is happening even in the modern times as well. So I would like to ask you some questions and we can have a discussion around it.
Sure, absolutely. Fire away.
As per you, since you already work with so many men, what are some of the most common mistakes that you see people making even in relationships itself, which actually leads to the breakdown of a relationship?
Absolutely. I think mostly, I obviously work with lots of entrepreneurs, corporate leaders who are young, could be mature. So that's my usual repertoire. But see, the most common mistake that they make is actually linked to their upbringing as well. So what happens is, say, if you're brought up, it's going to go all the way back to your childhood, right? So it doesn't happen just there when guy is speaking to a girl or in a relationship. So there are human drivers that I coach in my leadership academies. There are certain in particular, there are 6 human drivers that all of us are commonly sharing with. So in that drivers, there's one particular driver called love and validation. There are 6 human drivers. One of them is called love and validation. So you have this inherent character that you're seeking love and validation. That's what you are centralizing around. Everything what you do, every communication. Whenever you are presenting in the society, whatever you do, you are so anchored around this love and validation. So then if you're brought up in a family that the love and care is not given, it's given very less, it's going to be your void, it's going to be your huge gap, right? So that's unfulfilled desire. Once you've grown up as a adult, now you're looking for a relationship. Now you tend to look for that. For you're asking that partner, you're looking for that partner to fulfill that a lot more. So the problem is that it can be very persuasive, it can be even toxic, it can be very obsessive. That this person now you're committed with me for a relationship. Now you should be fulfilling all my cravings, all my needs and loves, and every single in 24 hours in the clock. So that is going to be communicated very, very negatively in a relationship. So it's gonna fall apart because obviously it's in your territory. So when in a relationship, a woman will expect the man to be independent and to be someone who can withstand pressure, stress, and give protection, security, etc. Right? So then when a man is behaving like that in a lack, it shows the emotional instability. He's not emotionally strong. He's not secure. So that, I believe, communicate very negatively in a woman's mindset, and eventually she gets switched off.
No, absolutely, I agree. I think it's one thing to have expectations, but it's also another thing to go into a relationship with the mindset that, hey, instead of just taking, I also do want to give. So when 2 people have that giving mindset, that is actually when the relationship thrives. So of course, it's valid for us to have expectations, but also go into it with the mindset that, hey, I want to give to the other person. And I do agree with what you said. It's more about what can I take from this other person right now?
Yeah.
Do you think love is enough to just sustain a relationship? Or are there deeper pillars?
I believe love is the foundation, and it always needs to continue, and always needs something that what happens in the long term, people take love for granted. They, at the very beginning of the relationships, people treat, how they treat each other, right? They give a lot of attention and make sure your partner is happy, is that person is excited, etc. That fades away in the long term. And a relationship, as like once you get into marriage, for example, and you get kids, etc. So then a lot of the conversation is about lots of the operational stuff when you meet your partner. You're paying the bills and the kids, the education, the house, etc., etc. So the love is not anywhere there. So that's one of the reasons why, my corporate leaders that I coach and all my personal development, etc., I do touch actually this relationship, not as extensively as you, in part of my coaching. One of the things that I tell them is, you need to take your partner on a date night, your married partner. So when I ask that, in this context, in South Asian context, in Sri Lanka, I'm pretty sure it's very similar in India as well. And you speak to someone, a woman or a man, like, okay, how long you been married? And they would say 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, whatever. Okay, when was the last time that you two just went out, just like when you were dating a long time ago? They feel really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So they have and I asked like this question: when was the last time you said I love you? And they blushed. They said, no, I can't remember for the last 5 years that's been exchanged. I feel shy to even say that. So that's where something that the South Asia couples need to work on to keep the spark. There is a methodology. We'll come to that. But love is the foundation. But on the top of that, I believe trust, respect, and communication. Those are the three things at the top of my head come to me that needs to nurture in a relationship. So that's what I believe. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, spark does fade off eventually when you do not put in the effort, right? And that is exactly something that a lot of couples do when you take the other person for granted. But what you said, like going 5 years without saying I love you to the person you are in a relationship, that sounds very long. And it's natural for the other person to also feel like, or even doubt for that matter of fact, does this person love me? Especially when it comes to women. Women need more reassurance from a man. So if they're not hearing these words that, okay, like he is in love with her, it actually creates the doubt in her mind thinking, okay, is she not good enough to be with him? Like, does he not love me anymore? So these are things that actually goes in a woman's mind as well. And you did touch upon a methodology that is something we can use to maintain the spark in the long run. Would you be able to talk more about that?
Yeah, the date night. Right, so this is again, so I actually forced some of my clients, the next time we meet, you better go on a date night with your partner. Okay, so this is like without bias to anyone. There are men and there are women in my coaching network. So almost all of them unanimously said the first date was absolutely uncomfortable, and they didn't know what to tell each other, and they find it super cringe. Right, and then next time ask me like, Ramindu, give me some tips how and what should we communicate, right? And then I gave them a protocol, right? When you go on a date, you cannot answer any phone calls. I see in particularly in Sri Lanka specifically, the couple would go out and the guy is still on business. He's checking his emails, WhatsApp messages, taking phone calls, and in a very expensive restaurant, there's just two of them. And he's on a phone call. So I said, no, the phone has to switch off, both of them. If you have kids, you can, in this part of the world, you have the support of your parents. You can keep your kids temporarily there for a few hours. So how did you guys behave before you get married? I want you to remind yourself that. And then what I suggested them was that, and share. So just to create the spark, just bring some old stories. Remember how we used to, get on this bus and how you used to travel, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, and obviously she's gonna remember that, and it's gonna relax both of them. So that's one of the tips that I share. And so this is obviously you can go to all the ways. So you go on a date night. It doesn't have to be just a meal. You're sitting and talking. It can be an activity base. Both of you can go on a trek, some sports or whatever, and then obviously ended up with just you two in an intimate setting as well. So all those things needs to be packaged. These are some of the tips that I can give top of my head.
I truly like the idea of going on something like a trek for a date, because that is where you see the other person's actual side even coming out. And this also touches upon this topic known as mystery in relationship, which is something people might have to work a little bit hard to bring out in a long-term relationship. But this can be done when both people have the mindset of growth, they're learning something, and you come together and you share something new that you have learned. So this way you're curious about your partner all along.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, nice. That's a good one. I didn't realize that until you shared that. I was just thinking about my wife. So the last, more than 10 years we married, and still she's figuring out some parts of my life, especially spiritual part of my life, and she's still figuring out, oh wow, I didn't know that you have this kind of insight, right? So that's there. So hey, okay, interesting to know.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Actually, she has a question she wanted to ask you. How important is someone to be honest with that person, with herself or himself, before you go getting into a relationship? Meaning that a lot of the time, when you date someone, you present your best self.
Mm-hmm.
Your best look and best behavior, etc. And a lot of the time, especially I think guys most likely will present themselves in a way that the girl's gonna like you, and they might even communicate the things that they don't even believe at all. Right? So the question is, how important that you're gonna be honest with yourself, that you are telling the truth exactly in every layer in that conversation.
I absolutely believe it's 100% important, because if you're dating intentionally for a long-term relationship, this person in front of you is probably going to someone who is going to go through life crisis with you. So let's say early on in the relationship or early on in the dating stages, if you're hiding your parts, that means you're not being authentic. And we all have flaws, we all have triggers, we all have weaknesses or even insecurities for that matter of fact. So if we are hiding those insecurities and weaknesses, we are not able to even judge, okay, if the other person in front of us can actually accept us for who we truly are. Because when you go into the connection showing only the best parts of you, what happens later on? When your real parts actually starts coming out, the other person thinks, okay, but this is not the person I wanted to be in a relationship with. This is not how they were in the beginning. They were so happy in the beginning. They were always in a positive mood. But no one is always happy, or no one is always sunshine and rainbows ever. So I truly believe that, we should be as authentic as possible. And one of the biggest thing I tell people is, wait till the first conflict happens before you get into a relationship. Because that is when the real sides of both the people will come out, because people get triggered when conflicts are happening. And a lot of times people get into a relationship, and even my clients, they come to me when, the relationship is kind of breaking down, but they never knew how this person's conflict management skills were. They never knew how they show up when they are stressed out. And these are things that you should be knowing about the person before you get into a relationship. And this requires 100% honesty.
Okay, great. So then what are the best ways to find this out as early as possible, like the green flags and the red flags in relationship? Okay, this person is not someone that I could have a long-term relationship.
Before we come to that question itself, a lot of people are actually dating because they're lonely. They just want someone. And so in this process, you truly do not know what are the qualities and parameters that you want in a partner. Because you just want someone. You just want someone to fill in that void in your life. So before you get into a relationship, I think people should also think about, okay, what do I need in a partner? What are the qualities that I like? How do I want her to show up for me specifically? And when these things are clarified, then they are in a better position to judge the green flags or the red flags and also see, okay, if they are compatible with me or not. Because these are the qualities I want in my partner, but okay, maybe it's not fully compatible, so maybe I do not want to proceed with this. Or saying, okay, this is exactly what I wanted in a partner, and maybe we can take this forward.
Okay.
And I also believe like being connected with your intuition is very important in the dating process, because a lot of times we do know that the person is not right for us if we are actually connected with our intuition. And when we like someone so much more, we truly ignore our intuition, and in this whole process we really ignore the red flags. And when we ignore the red flags, what happens later on? Things go wrong, the relationship ends later on, because the points that we really miss early on are usually the biggest reasons why the relationship ends later on.
Right. Brilliant. Yes. Usually what I say is you need to be comfortable and happy in solo, in solitary life first before you go for a relationship. If you are super uncomfortable staying by yourself, like solo, you need to work on that self. If you're going to find a relationship, if you're going to find a, let's say, woman in my context, if you're going to find a woman to fill that void, that's going to be, that's going to put your relationship into a lot of jeopardize. I mean, you're going to jeopardize a relationship in the long term. So a lot of people we see get into relationship as well as making kids to fill that void. Right, so that's going to be a whole different problem, different subject also. So now the parents are persuading you and very obsessed over you because it's just that you are just a product to fulfill their void. That with or without a relationship, that you need to have your own life. Your own life.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I actually heard a story of someone where they were trying to have kids because their marriage was breaking down. And imagine having kids in such a situation where you do not have a strong relationship foundation. You're bringing a child into the world, hoping, the child fixes your relationship or the marriage in itself. But at the same time, you have compatibility issues with each other as a couple. And this is going to cause childhood traumas for the child when the parents are fighting all the time. So as per you, how does the childhood or family upbringing also affect relationships?
Huge. I think the major part of someone's getting into a relationship and staying in a relationship largely due to the fact that how you've been brought up and your environment. So let's say you are in a South Asian context. Now the newer generation is a bit different in Sri Lanka, but let's say the kids who grew up in the late 80s and the 90s. So we have a lot of forbidden areas for relationships. So, this very academically focused childhood that all of us had. So if you're getting into a relationship, it's a huge forbidden area. So the parents will put a lot of restrictions. So then a lot of the kids grow up. Obviously, we had relationships, but a lot of the kids grow up to 18, 19 with that kind of a restriction. So it always been the area that you crave the most. Mm-hmm. And you never give an opportunity. So, and then when you're suddenly 20s or something, that you're kind of free for a relationship, you don't know what drives you. So is it this like unfulfilled desire that you're trying to fulfill, or are you really mature enough to have a serious relationship? So then the different question comes, casual dating and a serious relationship. So my entire focus is about the serious relationship. We don't need to shed a lot of wisdom for casual dating. So that's what I believe. So for a serious relationship, because I believe it's important to have a relationship when you're ready. If you are, or when you are going on a longer journey, a bigger mission in your life, to someone trusted to share your mission and your vision, etc. That's what I do. So this balances you up. and we're living in a very hedonistic world. The material pull is extremely strong and is getting even stronger. So unless if you're living in a very controlled environment like a monastery, otherwise you can make bad judgment in a moment of weakness. So when you are in a serious relationship, someone's waiting for you to come home. Not just getting into wrong relationship, but all the other aspects as well, right? You can ditch unnecessary wrong association with friends. You can't stay too long past midnight because she's gonna message you, where are you? So it's important to have, for a guy's perspective, I think it's important to have that kind of a discipline. Okay, you have a family back home, and this is where you're gonna draw a line. But then again, your question is the upbringing for Sri Lankan or South Asian context, that putting so many restrictions make you crave the relationship more. That reason you can get into wrong relationship pretty easily, right? So because that's been forbidden, like the forbidden fruit. And also, if you didn't have the love from your mother when you're a kid, and you're trying to fulfill that when you grow up, and now there's say that you are getting into a relationship with another girl. She's also, let's say, 19 or 20. Now she's still very, very young. She's not mature enough to understand your complex, requirements or desires. So she might not give it. She's not your mom, right? So then it's gonna create a lot of conflicts with each other. So to resolve that, we can't ask them to go back to childhood and resolve that, right? So it's important to understand, okay, I'm someone who didn't have that, or I'm someone who had it more than my fair share. So I had too much attention or too less, right? So, or did I have a very centered, secured, safe dose of love and care from my upbringing? So this is something that you need to ask yourself personally and understand where you are, and then work on yourself. There are ways to work on yourself, right? This is a whole different area, but you need to work on yourself.
Absolutely. I think the awareness is really missing when it comes to understanding how your childhood relationship with your mother or your father actually affects how you show up in your adult relationship as well. As you said, like, a lot of men are actually chasing their mother's love through women these days, and a lot of them do not even have the awareness of that, to be honest. And on the other side, when you don't have like a strong father figure who's there to guide you, they do not have that sense of strength, masculinity, and also how to put boundaries with a woman as a result of that too. So both the parents actually play a huge role, but a lot of people do not heal these mother wounds or these father wounds, and they actually try to use the relationship as a balm to their wounds.
Right.
Yeah. So I do want to pick up on the topic that you touched on, which is when it comes to a man being in a relationship versus having discipline at the same time, and also making sure there's a balance between his relationship and his mission. What suggestion would you give to men when it comes to prioritizing your mission, purpose, but at the same time also giving your attention to a relationship?
Of course, that question comes a lot when I coach people. So they ask about work-life balance. Right, that's a popular term, and I always say you cannot balance work and life. If you're trying to balance something, you're going to get off balance. What you can have is work-life integration, meaning that let's say my schedule, for example. Now today is Sunday, right? So I'm working, and early this morning I was working, and then another couple of hours later I have a Q&A in my members network. It will be 2 p.m. Sri Lankan time, Sunday, when everybody is just chilling out, right? So, and then around 3:30 p.m. Today, then I have some time to spend focus on my wife. So we have this conversation. Okay, this is how my schedule look like. She understands. She sees my schedule for the next 3 months ahead. What are the most important milestones that I need to achieve? The weekly basis, monthly basis, where I'm heading. So the communication needs to be super clear between each other. So this is where we're heading. These are the benefits. This is what matters to me. This is what's going to happen to us in 3 months time, 6 months time, 1 year's time, if you walk on this path. and then understand, okay, so 4 p.m., for example, myself, then I'm going to give herself 2 to 3 hours today. So we can do whatever, right? We can go in a restaurant, we can have a conversation, we can just chill out on the couch or whatever. So then whatever that time that you give, you need to be fully present with her. Not just scrolling down again on social media while you're speaking to her, just fully present with her. Even if it's as small as, let's say, 10 minutes, just give that 100% yourself to that person. I realize I have to do that with my mom as well. So because I'm always super busy, she called me like almost every single day. Then I used to say, hey, I'm busy. Like, I'll call you later. Boom. Like, I hang up. Then I thought, you know what? I need to apply the same principles that I do apply with my wife. So when I speak to my mom for 3 minutes, I'm like full on with her. She's saying something that completely, off the shelf, like, oh, I have some food, prepared for you, like something tiny, like I'm just about to deliver a massive session for 50 corporate leaders, and she gives me a call and I answer because one of the things that when she calls, I answer because I take that as an urgent call. And then she's like, I have some sweet ready for you, where are you? Right? So that I give the fullest presents to her. I said, that sounds fantastic, right? I act like that. Mom, that sweet, my favorite sweet. Wow, that's fantastic. I'm definitely gonna pick that up. And this evening or tomorrow afternoon, just keep it in the fridge. I'll be right away. I'm just about to have a session with this audience. So I show that energy and the presence with her, and she's happy. She used to be not so happy because I'm always in a rush to, hang up the line. So similarly, so when you're with your partner, just give your 100%. And see, for example, in my crazy life, I go on what we call a 12-week sprint. So I work for 12 weeks. My entire team, the one boy is here right now, entire team, we work for 12 weeks at a stretch. So all weekends, long weekends, and the religious holidays, you name it, we're working. After 12 weeks, we take a break. I take a break for about 5 to 7 days. Now, the next holiday for me is in October. So we are set to go to Rajasthan, India. So we'll be traveling to Vrindavan and Rajasthan, spending about 7 days. So that's where I go all in with her. So forget about the entire world. I forget my business mission, what it means to me with my father. I forget everything. I forget every damn thing, and I let go everything, and I be with her 7 days. And she's super happy, and I'm good for another 12 weeks.
Yeah, this is such an important point actually. A woman doesn't need all your time. But whatever time you are giving her, she needs full presence. And this is where a lot of men actually get it wrong, where they tell her that, okay, I'm spending time with you, but in that time they're actually scrolling or doing something, thinking of something else, and a woman doesn't get the full presence. And this is where she feels frustrated even in a relationship as well.
Yep.
And I have another question for you. How can couples actually navigate, difference in values, lifestyle choices, or even topics like money in a relationship?
Yes, pretty good question, I guess. So because now this is one other area, like a lot of people try to have similar values. They believe that all the values has to be similar, all the lifestyle has to be exactly the same. I think it's quite incorrect. So you need to ask yourself, like, what attracted you to that partner in the first place? So then can protect that for the rest of your life. And then so the values, obviously in a spiritual sense, there are certain values and principles you need to agree on, the way you do your business, etc. Right? So when you put that aside, your lifestyle, certain areas you can share, you can have common areas. And certain areas, it can be totally contrasting. Like, for instance, like I'm into martial arts. So I since I was a kid, I was a martial arts, and it's quite a hobby for me to get myself beaten up. Right? I find joy and a taste. I used to say that it's very tasty to get beaten up and all my body. So, which my wife will find hilarious and completely not agreeable. So. And she would not participate. she's a yoga teacher by profession anyway, so she wouldn't participate that. And if I watch a martial art sparring session, she's not the person who's gonna sit down with me and watch it, unless if it is like a super important World Cup final or something. So we need to understand that this is his area. This is what the area what we call feed his soul or feed her soul. So it could be a common thing, like for a lady could be going on a shopping spree. And she just loves spending the entire day going from shopping mall to shopping mall, and probably buying some stuff, probably not buying some stuff most of the time. That doesn't work with me. I find I'm about to die, right? So if I spend 2 hours in a shopping mall, I feel like I'm suffocating. So what I do is enjoy your shopping, have a super duper time. I'll be in that cafe working on something, so we understand that, cool, that's not his thing. So appreciate that, and the most important thing is that not discouraging that, not judging that, saying that this is stupid, don't do that. So you understand the most important thing. You need to understand that this feed that person's soul, so to say, metaphorically. So I need to give him or her a certain fair share of time for that person to go out and do it.
I really like that, and it touches upon the topic of understanding in relationship, where you're not judging. And a lot of times, people judge each other in a relationship. They judge their preferences. And I think this also leads to contempt, resentment, and breakdown in the relationship itself. And since you work with so many high-profile clients as well who run businesses, what would you say are the top 3 relationship challenges, or any relationship challenges that they actually face on a day-to-day basis?
Well, the highly driven people, the biggest challenge is they are limited time with their partners. They are obsessed over their work, their missions, and they think, we have this big mission to achieve this year, and it never ends. And your children are growing up, and you have missed a lot of beautiful moments with them, right? Suddenly they're 16, 18, and suddenly they are super distant from you because you never present with them. So the biggest challenge is that the time. So that's why I say you need to schedule your time. There's a corporate leader. It's actually, they have Indian descent, so they are from India, but their entire generation here grew up in Sri Lanka. So they're extremely successful business family. So all siblings are in the business. So they have this thing called every Thursday or something. Every Thursday 7 p.m. the entire family, they meet up. Whoever involved in the business. So 7 to 10 p.m. they meet and they sit and then do not talk anything about business. And they talk about each other, their health or what they want, the relationship, their children's growing up, what's happening with their kids, and if they want to go to a pilgrimage or etc., what's the fun activity they want to do next. So they really build that. So for that reason, they stay together very strong, and the business empire is huge. So similarly, you need to have a time that is uncompromised, regardless of what's going on in your career. So you need to, in a very practical way, which day on your week that we can lock in, let's say a couple of hours, completely focus on your relationship. That's one of the things that one of the advices that I have to give for any driven person. So second problem would be not understanding that. Imagine that you got married, you went to a serious relationship at the age of early 20s, 23, 24, 25, whatever. Now 10 years fast forward, and now you're in your mid 30s, and you have forgotten that your partner has transformed. He has changed a lot. Things that he liked the most, he doesn't like much. So his things have changed as we go through different phases. The priority changes, and if you didn't catch that, it's going to cause a lot of problems. So that also, again, everything boils down to communication. So you need to have a healthy communication and understand. And again, what I see is the thing that you mentioned, the resentment or the contempt. See, the the problem is that you have an image. Okay, this is who he is, this is who she is, this is how he should be. He's not someone who can climb a mountain, he can walk in the park and things like that. So suddenly you show liking, okay, I want to do this. And your partner, usually in a bad relationship, a partner will shut it down, saying that, are you crazy? You're not someone who can do that. This is stupid, don't do that. Right? So, but you need to understand, okay, this person has changed. Probably he wants to explore that. Probably some other layer is kind of coming up or getting matured.
Yeah.
So this communication is extremely important.
What is the most important communication hack as per you in a long-term relationship in order to make sure that things don't end up in an argument or a conflict?
The biggest one I have experienced as well as I've learned is show this person that you hear him or her. I hear you. Show it. You don't have to. It's basically the biggest communication is something that you do without even talking at all. You just stay present and focus on that person and, okay, I hear you. It not necessarily mean that you fully endorse or agree. She can say, you're terrible. You're terrible. You're a liar. You said you come at this time. You didn't come. You never do that. Probably that statement is exaggerated statement. Probably you do that only 2 times out of 5. So without defending it, just stay calm and show your interest. I understand your frustration. Now she's exaggerating or whatever. It's because she's showing an emotion. She expected that so much, and she can't take it any further. So she's just communicating her frustration. So show that, okay, I hear you. I hear your frustration. I understand. I understand that you value this so much. You wanted to meet at 7 p.m. You wanted it so much, and I didn't take it that seriously. I understand it now. The argument ends there. Yeah. So a lot of people, what they do is they defend a lot. No, you don't understand. This is something happened in my work life. This is what happened. So it's going to end very badly in the long term, because in the long term, the threshold of tolerating that, diminishes. So then years stack up and all these frustration stacks up, and it can end very negatively.
No, frustration comes in so much when, the person opposite you kind of shuts you down or is defensive, and that, as you said, the person doesn't feel seen or heard. And I feel like this kind of also triggers them in such a way, if they haven't been seen or heard in their childhood also, all those past wounds also come in, then the things they have against the partner, all the past fights that haven't gone well, everything comes up and it stacks all together, and the relationship fully breaks down completely. So, since you've also been married for so long, is there any daily ritual that you do with your wife?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a lot of learning to do, because it didn't come from a system. Nobody taught us. So there's a lot of wrong concepts, a lot of wrong cultural rubbish was there as we grew up. So we had to learn, explore, and we lived in 2 countries. We lived in Sri Lanka, we lived in the UK. So living in the UK, living all this zone actually helped us to grow together. So that was a big plus. So it's one of the advices that I can give to entire South Asia is, once you get married, leave your parental house. Further the better, but obviously keep a very healthy relationship with your parents. Talk to them, schedule the team. Like, for example, I have every 2 to 3 weeks a time, I go and visit my mom, spend a really good time with her, just me and her, and then I come back. But I stay in good distance. It's very important that you don't, because we have this luxury in South Asia that you can stay in your parents' house, not unlike in the West. But don't use that once you get into a relationship, once you basically married and bring your wife or your partner home. It's very important that you should have an exit plan. Okay, in X number of months, I am gonna have my own place. So the ritual is very. So I am a really early riser. So I get up at 5 o'clock. I can even get up early than that. So 5 a.m. Boom, I'm up. And my wife sometimes, occasionally, when we have to go somewhere, she gets up at that time. Otherwise, she wouldn't get up that time. And she admire her sleep and that type a lot. So since she's a full-time yoga teacher, she needs that rest as well. So there was a time that I didn't understand, because I was coming from a family that they're all early risers. They get up at 3:30, 4 a.m. in the morning. We got military brothers. So I haven't heard or seen anyone getting up later than 5 a.m. So, and then I had to learn this. Then once I understood, I realized, okay, so my morning routine is different. Her morning routine is a bit different. So that acceptance and appreciation is very important. So the communication is, okay, you admire both routines and how you naturally flow, and then see how you can gel in. That's very important. And there are days that we are super busy. Like I said, we probably get 10 minutes. So we try to have breakfast, lunch, or dinner together, because we all gonna have breakfast and lunch and dinner, right? So that time we can easily, without adding extra time, we can utilize that. We can sit down with each other, we can enjoy the meal, and have a normal conversation and play some nice music. That's what I usually do. So, or some days, like let's say you work hard for Monday to Friday evening you can go somewhere. It could be a date night, as I mentioned earlier, or you can sit in the couch. You can ask her, what do you like to watch? Something relaxing. So you focus on that, and you connect with each other and talk about what you're watching, etc. So this is how you keep it healthy. And like I said, boys are boys, girls are girls. So the boys are always being boys. So you need to have that boys time, right? So I meet some of my boys, very, very less now. This is my gig now. So most of the time I'm here. When I meet them, I have my time, and it just, I only focus on them. And she has a girl's time, right? Even today now she's meeting some of her girls. So that happens regularly. So that's also extremely important ritual in order to have a healthy relationship. So you can't be bugging her like, okay, you finish that and come home quickly. No, don't do that. So let her enjoy that, and that's gonna give a lot of balance and value to your relationships. So this is some of the things that I do. What else we do? We actually have a lot of common spiritual desires or spiritual persuasions. That we have the common goal. So we have this, what we call the spiritual hour. Once a week we discuss and exchange the spiritual things that we learn. So we learn about Buddhism and Vedanta, Bhagavad Gita, etc. We exchange the values, and we have this healthy debate about certain questions. Like, it's important that we question and learn. Again, it can go badly if you try to get into an argument, right? So it happens actually quite a lot in as I learned from a lot of the couples who are married. The husband is Christian, the wife is Buddhist, and they tend to have a conversation that in two different ends up you talk about something that invisible and end up really badly. So you need to have, for all of those things, what I realized was you need to have a high degree of maturity. Mm-hmm. High degree of maturity, which is not really common in especially among the men of South Asia. They're really good technical knowledge, academically super good, but this relationship maturity is pretty rare in this part of the world. I believe it's because you're always being controlled by your parents from age 1 to 18. You're never given freedom to go and knock yourself somewhere, and so too much of protection and focus. So the maturity, you didn't have space and the environment to develop your maturity.
Absolutely. No, it's very important because relationship is such a big part of our lives. But early on in our life, in our formative years, we are not even given an example of what a good relationship looks like. And even in schools, for that matter of fact, if you are in a relationship with someone else, that's a very bad thing, as per the teachers. So nobody has that kind of exposure, awareness, knowledge or even the maturity to know, okay, how do I show up in a relationship? Because I've only learned how to achieve things. I've only learned how to get good grades. But this is an area where I have no clue about. But this is actually, I think, one of the most important areas of our life.
Exactly. I believe South Asia used to be very different before the British. So when I dig into the history, what I found out was biologically, we are ready for a relationship by the time you are, at least by 16, 17, right? Probably a few years before that, at least by 16, 17, for a innocent relationship. I'm not saying get into a fully fledged relationship, some sort of relationship. But with these Victorian laws that was imposed into South Asia's entire subcontinent, and the British were occupying these lands since 1800s to 1948. So during that, the cultural traits that they enforced us was Victorian era rules, which even the Brits have actually left that, and they look down on that. But still in these lands, with these Victorian rules, the Victorian ways of thinking, the cultural attributes are still here. So that's a huge hindrance for us to grow as men and women. And also we have neglected the learnings of Vedanta and all the spiritual philosophical learnings that we have. So that's a big problem. I believe actually the only way to bounce back from that is understanding what we had before, right? So how, and relationship, the knowledge, the lot of wisdom that actually lies, especially in the subcontinent. So that's something that we need to look back and learn.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think this has been like truly a wonderful conversation, and it's great to have a male example even on my channel so that people can not just hear from me but hear from someone who's actually in a relationship and is also an entrepreneur at the same time, so that they can understand how to take things forward from there on. So I would really like to thank you for our show today, and it was a pleasure speaking to you.
Absolutely. Pleasure is mine. Thank you so much, Vish.
Thank you.